The morning light filters through the narrow window of the statio at the 6th hour. My name is Gaius Publicius Scriptor, and I am a clerk of the Cursus Publicus, the imperial post. This is my log. I begin each day the same way. The wax tablet sits before me on the worn wooden desk, its surface still holding yesterday's impressions. The stylus feels familiar in my hand. Bronze, weighted properly, the pointed end for writing, the flat end for erasing. I turn the tablet slowly, examining what must be cleared. There are 17 line entries from yesterday's afternoon dispatch. The scraping must be done carefully. I press the flat end of the stylus against the upper left corner of the tablet. The motion is always the same, downward, with steady pressure, following the grain of the wax. The sound it makes is particular. A soft, rhythmic screech. Not harsh. The wax is beeswax mixed with a small amount of resin and lamp black, which gives it that dark surface and keeps it from becoming too brittle in winter or too soft in summer. Each stroke clears perhaps 3 digits width of surface. I work methodically, left to right, top to bottom. There is no hurry. Rushing creates uneven surfaces, and uneven surfaces make for unclear writing later. A clerk who cannot read his own hand is useless. The tablet measures 1 palm in width, 1.5 in length. Standard issue for daily logs. The wooden frame is walnut, oiled twice yearly to prevent splitting. This particular tablet has been in service for 4 years. I know this because I can see the wear patterns in the frame corners where my thumb rests. The morning is cool. Outside, I can hear Lucius, the stable master, already moving among the horses. The Cursus Publicus maintains 12 horses here at this mansion. 6 for immediate dispatch, 6 in rotation for rest. A horse that has run a full segment must rest no less than 3 days. This is regulation, established under Hadrian and confirmed under Antoninus Pius. The scraping is half complete now. My hand moves with the same rhythm it has moved for 11 years. Before I was a clerk of the post, I apprenticed as a scribe in the municipal offices at Comum. The work was similar but lacked this particular satisfaction: the clearing of the slate, the preparation for new information, the daily cycle of record and erasure. A courier arrived late last night. I heard the hooves on the stone courtyard at the 3rd watch. Late arrivals are noted in a separate log, but first the daily record must be prepared. Order before exception. This is the principle. The wax is nearly smooth now in the upper 2/3 of the tablet. I can see where my stylus has passed. The surface catches the light differently when it has been properly scraped. Too much pressure creates valleys. Too little leaves ridges that will interfere with today's markings. Outside, I hear the first horse being led from the stable. That will be Ferox, the bay gelding. Ferox always goes first to the water trough. Lucius maintains a schedule for the horses as rigid as my own for the tablets. The final section of the tablet requires the most care. Here at the bottom edge, the wax has been scored and rescored so many times that it has become slightly thinner than the rest. I must use less pressure, or I will scrape down to the wood itself. Light strokes now. The sound changes slightly, softer, more careful. This takes perhaps 50 strokes to clear the same area that took 30 strokes at the top of the tablet. Complete. I hold the tablet up to the window light and turn it slowly, checking for any remaining impressions. The surface should be uniformly dark, uniformly smooth. There, a small ridge near the center. I scrape it again. 3 strokes. Now it is ready. I set the tablet down and flex my fingers. The work of preparing the tablet takes approximately 1/4 of an hour each morning. Some of the younger clerks at other stations complain about this time. They have not yet learned that hurrying this task only creates difficulties later. I stand and walk to the small table near the door where the standard weights are kept. These must be verified at the start of each shift. I am not a weighmaster, but a clerk of the post must understand the regulations precisely. The grain pouch, the standard measure for lightweight postal items, sits on the shelf. I pick it up. The regulation weight is 5 unsai. An uncha is 1/12 of a libra, the standard Roman pound. The libra itself weighs approximately what a man's closed fist can comfortably hold of water, established by ancient measure. 5 unsai, then, is slightly less than half a libra. In practical terms, it is the weight of a small bread roll, or approximately 75 barleycorns laid side by side. The grain pouch itself is leather, stitched with linen thread, measuring 4-digit square when laid flat. I place the pouch on the bronze scale. The counterweight slides along the beam until it balances at the 5 unsha mark. Correct. I have never found this weight to be incorrect, but I have been checking it each morning for 11 years, and I will continue checking it. The sound of horses grows louder outside. Lucius will be beginning the morning rotation. Every 3 days, the rested horses are moved from the rear paddock to the forward stable positions. The horses that have been in dispatch rotation are moved to rest. This happens at the 2nd hour of daylight, precisely. I return to my desk and take up the stylus again, now to write rather than erase. The first entry of each day is always the date. I press the pointed end of the stylus into the wax. The motion requires less pressure than the scraping did, just enough to displace the wax and expose the lighter wood beneath. Too much pressure and the stylus will stick. Too little and the mark will be too shallow to read by lamplight. AD 9 Cal. April. The 9th day before the calends of April, in the consulship of Lucius Aurelius Verus and Marcus Virgilius Civica Barbarus. I do not write out the full consular dating each day, that is reserved for official dispatches. For the daily log, the abbreviated date suffices. The letters form slowly, each stroke deliberate. Roman capitals only. Cursive script is acceptable for personal correspondence, but not for official logs. I pause and look at what I have written. The letters are clear, evenly spaced, properly sized. The wax has held the impression well. This tablet will last through today's entries and can be scraped clean again tomorrow. Outside, I hear Lucius speaking to the horses. His voice is low, steady. A good stable master speaks to his animals the way a good clerk writes in his log, with consistency, with respect for the task at hand. The morning continues. Soon the first scheduled dispatch rider will arrive for his posting assignment. Until then, there is this, the prepared tablet, the verified weight, the morning light through the window, the sound of horses being led to water. I take up the stylus again. The second entry will be the overnight courier's arrival time and the condition of his horse. But first, I note the weather, clear, wind from the east, temperature cool but not cold. These details matter for the dispatch schedule. The work continues, as it has continued, as it will continue. The stylus moves across the wax. The overnight courier's details must be recorded with precision. I write slowly. Noctis adventus, hora tertia vigilii. Cursor, Marcus Valerius Proculus. The arrival at the 3rd hour of the night watch, that places it between midnight and the first cockcrow. Marcus Valerius Proculus. I know this courier. He runs the route from Mediolanum, a distance of 42 Roman miles. A good rider can cover this in one full day if the roads are clear and the weather holds. That Marcus arrived in darkness suggests either delay or urgent dispatch. I add the next line, Equus, Fuscus, Septimus Annus, Claudicatio Levissima pedis sinistro posterior. The horse, brown, 7th year, very slight lameness in the left rear hoof. This detail is essential. Lucius will need to examine the animal before it can be cleared for return rotation. A courier's horse that develops lameness must be rested for no less than 5 days, and the farrier must be consulted. I make a notation to remind myself to check with Lucius after the morning inspections are complete. The stylus continues its work. Each letter displaces a thin line of wax. The sound is softer than the scraping, more of a whisper than a scrape. I hear footsteps in the corridor outside my office. Heavy boots on stone. That will be Decimus, the watch commander, making his morning rounds. His schedule intersects with mine at this hour every day except on the calends, when he inspects the outer posts first. The door opens without knock. Decimus does not knock. He is senior to me in years of service, though our ranks are equivalent within our respective duties. "Scripter," he says. His voice is rough from the night air. He has been awake since the 4th watch. "Commander," I reply, setting down the stylus. "The courier from Media Lanum. You have his details. Recording them now?" The horse shows slight lameness. Lucius has not yet examined it. Decimus nods. He expects this answer because this is the answer I always give at this stage of the morning. He knows my procedures as I know his. The dispatch he carried is sealed. Imperial priority mark. I've placed it in the secure box. Imperial priority. This changes the morning's schedule. An Imperial dispatch must be logged separately, and a replacement courier must be assigned immediately, regardless of rotation schedules. "I will note it," I say. Decimus leaves without further words. Efficiency between us has been built over 7 years of daily intersection. We do not require elaborate courtesies. I take up a second tablet from the shelf, the red-bordered one reserved for priority dispatches. This tablet is never scraped clean completely. Instead, each entry is marked with a line when it has been completed and superseded by the next. The historical record of priority dispatches must be maintained for the quarterly audit. I open the tablet. The most recent entry is from 16 days ago, a dispatch concerning grain allocations for the 14th Legion. That matter has been concluded, so I draw a careful horizontal line beneath it with my stylus. The line must be straight, must fully cross the text. A wavy line or a partial line suggests uncertainty or incomplete action. The line takes 5 seconds to complete. Now I begin the new entry. AD 9 Cal. April, Hora Secunda. Diploma Imperial, Sigillo Intacto. The date, the 2nd hour, an Imperial document, seal intact. I do not know the contents, that is not my role. My role is to document its passage through this statio, to ensure it continues its journey with appropriate speed and security. The sound of hooves on the courtyard stones grows more frequent now. Lucius is bringing out the second rotation of horses. The morning exercise period runs from the 2nd hour until the 3rd. Each horse must be walked for a minimum of 30 circuits of the inner courtyard before being offered water. This loosens the muscles and allows Lucius to observe any irregularities in gait or temperament. I can distinguish the horses by the sound of their hooves. The lightest sound is Sela, the grey mare who places her feet with particular delicacy. The heaviest is Fortis, the black gelding whose hooves strike the stone with authority. Between these two extremes, the others form a pattern I have learned without conscious effort. I return my attention to the tablet. The Imperial dispatch will require a courier. I must check the rotation schedule. I stand and move to the large board mounted on the wall beside the window. The board is divided in 2 columns: courier names, their current status, their last dispatch date, their assigned route. The board is made of wood painted white, and I update it each evening with charcoal marks that can be wiped clean and rewritten. 6 couriers are currently stationed here. 3 are in active rotation, 2 are in rest period, 1 is overdue from Ticinum. The courier overdue from Ticinum concerns me, though I do not allow this concern to disrupt my procedures. Gaius Licinius Rufus was scheduled to return yesterday at the 9th hour. He has not arrived. This is not yet alarming. Delays of 1 day are within normal variation, especially in the winter months when roads can become difficult. Still, I note the delay. For the Imperial dispatch, I need a courier in active rotation who has rested at least 1 full day since his last run. I examine the board. Titus Flavius Severus. Last dispatch, 2 days prior, a routine run to Comum. Distance, 28 miles. Horse condition on return, excellent. Severus himself reported no difficulties. He is cleared for immediate dispatch. I return to my desk and add this information to the priority tablet. Cursor assignatus, Titus Flavius Severus. Hora tertia prefecturus. The courier assigned, Titus Flavius Severus. He will depart at the 3rd hour. This gives him time to prepare his kit, to receive his route instructions from Decimus, and to allow Lucius to select and prepare his horse. The stylus moves steadily. The letters must be particularly clear on the priority tablet because this tablet is reviewed not only by the quarterly auditors but potentially by the provincial administrative officers. I set down the priority tablet and take up the daily log again. The routine entries must continue even when priority matters arise. A clerk who allows his routine to be disrupted by urgency will eventually lose control of his record keeping entirely. Next entry. The morning horse inventory. I walk to the door and step out into the courtyard. The sun is higher now, though still low enough that the eastern wall casts shade across half the space. The air smells of horses and hay and the particular scent of the courtyard after it has been swept and dampened, a morning task completed by the stable boys before first light. Lucius stands near the water trough with Ferox. The bay gelding drinks deeply, his sides still slightly expanded from the walking exercise. Lucius runs his hand down the horse's left foreleg, checking the tendons with the practiced touch of a man who has worked with horses for 30 years. Lucius, I call out. He looks up, nods, finishes his inspection, then walks over to me. The morning count? I ask, though I know he has it ready. Lucius always has the count ready at this hour. 12 horses total, he says. 6 in forward stable, fit for dispatch. 5 in rest rotation, all sound. 1 requiring farrier attention, the brown from last night's arrival. I have noted the lameness in my log, I say. Slight only, Lucius adds. The farrier can see him this afternoon. 5 days rest should suffice. 5 days, I repeat, committing this to memory for my afternoon entry. Lucius continues, fresh horses rotated this morning, Sela, Fortis, and Aura. Moved to forward stable. Ventus, Strenuous, and Rapida moved to rest rotation. I listen carefully. These names will be written in my log. The rotation of horses is as essential to record as the rotation of couriers. A poorly rested horse can fail mid-journey, and if my records do not clearly show that proper rotation was maintained, the responsibility falls to the Statio administration. Sela, Fortis, Aura to forward, I say. Ventus, Strenuous, Rapida to rest. Lucius nods. Correct. Severus will need a horse at the 3rd hour. Imperial dispatch. Lucius considers this. Fortis, he says after a moment. Fresh rotation. Strong build, good temperament for long runs. If the dispatch goes beyond Mediolanum, Fortis has the endurance. I will note Fortis as assigned, I say. We stand for a moment in the courtyard. The sound of hooves has quieted, the exercise period is ending. In the distance, I can hear voices from the main building where the overnight couriers take their morning meal. I return to my desk and take up the stylus once more. The morning inventory must be recorded while the information is fresh. Memory is reliable, but memory committed immediately to wax is more reliable still. Equi, numerus duodecim. In station prima, sex, apti. In requi, quinque, soni. Subcura, unus. 12 horses. 6 in forward stable, fit. 5 in rest, sound. 1 under care. Then the rotation details. Each name must be spelled correctly. A clerk who misspells a horse's name demonstrates carelessness, and carelessness in small matters suggests carelessness in large ones. Rotatio matutina, Sela, Fortis, Aura ad stationem primum translati. Ventus, Strenuous, Rapida ad requiem translati. The stylus moves with steady rhythm. Each letter takes approximately 2 heartbeats to form properly. I do not rush. The morning is still young, the 3rd hour is not yet complete, and I have time before Severus will arrive to receive his assignment. Outside, I hear the stable boys leading the horses back to their stalls. The exercise period has concluded. Now the horses will be brushed, their hooves checked, their feed distributed. Lucius maintains a schedule for feeding, a mixture of barley, hay, and in winter months, dried apple when available. Each horse receives portions calculated to its size and work level. I complete the rotation entry and pause. My hand is beginning to feel the morning's work, not pain, but awareness. The muscles between thumb and forefinger, the slight pressure point where the stylus rests. This is normal. By mid-morning, the feeling will fade as the hand fully warms to its task. I set down the stylus and flex my fingers slowly. Open, close, open, close. 5 repetitions. This is a practice taught to me by my instructor at Comum, a scribe named Quintus who had worked for 40 years without significant hand ailment. The hand is a tool, he told me. Tools must be maintained. On the shelf beside my desk sits a small clay lamp, unlit at this hour. Beside it, a bundle of rush wicks and a sealed jar of olive oil. In winter, when the days are short, I light the lamp at the 8th hour and work by its light until the evening courier arrives. The lamp's maintenance is recorded in a separate log: oil consumed, wicks replaced, cleaning dates. Everything is recorded. I stand and walk to the window. The courtyard is quieter now. A stable boy, young Marcus, the farrier's nephew, sweeps scattered hay from the stones. His movements are methodical, starting from the eastern corner and working westward. He has learned efficiency, this boy. When he first arrived 3 months ago, he would sweep randomly, missing corners, creating more work for himself. Now he understands pattern. The sound of footsteps approaches again, but lighter this time. Not Decimus. I turn from the window. Titus Flavius Severus enters my office. He is perhaps 30 years of age, lean as all couriers become, with the sun-darkened skin of a man who spends his days on horseback. He wears the standard courier tunic, undyed wool, belted, practical. His leather dispatch bag hangs from his shoulder, empty now but soon to carry the imperial document. Scriptor, he greets me. Severus. You have been informed? Decimus told me. Imperial priority. Departure at the 3rd hour. I nod and move to the locked cabinet where secure dispatches are held. The cabinet is iron-bound oak, secured with a lock that requires 2 keys, one held by Decimus, one by me. For priority dispatches, we must both be present for the retrieval. Wait here, I tell Severus. I walk down the corridor to Decimus's office. He sits at his own desk, reviewing the night watch reports. I do not enter, but stand in the doorway. Severus is here. The dispatch must be retrieved. Decimus stands without comment and follows me back to my office. We walk in silence. Our footsteps echo differently, his heavier, mine lighter. The corridor is limestone, quarried locally, fitted precisely so that the joints are nearly invisible. Back in my office, Severus waits by the window. He does not sit. Couriers rarely sit when preparing for a run, some superstition or habit I have never inquired about. Decimus and I approach the cabinet together. I produce my key from the ring at my belt. Decimus produces his from a leather pouch. The locks on this cabinet are positioned at opposite corners, top left, bottom right. We must insert our keys simultaneously, or the mechanism will not turn. I insert mine in the top left. The metal is cool, the fit precise. Ready? Decimus asks. Ready. We turn our keys together. One full rotation. The locks disengage with a solid click that echoes slightly in the small office. I open the cabinet door. Inside, on the upper shelf, lies a single wooden tube, sealed at both ends with wax. The seal bears the imperial stamp, the eagle and thunderbolt, pressed clearly into red wax. The seal is intact. I examine it closely before touching the tube. Any crack, any impression that suggests tampering, would require immediate report to the provincial governor's office. The seal is perfect. I lift the tube carefully. It weighs perhaps 8 unsai, heavier than the standard grain pouch, lighter than a full military dispatch cylinder. The weight suggests either multiple documents or a single document of substantial length, perhaps with attached maps or requisition schedules. I hand the tube to Severus. He takes it with both hands, examines the seal as I did, then nods once. I confirm the seal intact, he says. This ritual confirmation is required. If the seal is broken during transport and Severus did not confirm its initial integrity, the fault could be attributed to him. Witnessed, says Decimus. Witnessed and recorded, I add. Severus places the tube carefully into his dispatch bag. The bag has an inner compartment specifically designed for sealed documents, leather-lined, protected from weather and impact. Your horse is Fortis, I tell him. Lucius has him prepared. Fortis. Good. He has endurance. The route? Severus asks, though he likely already knows. Decimus answers, Mediolanum first. Present yourself to the station master there. He will have further routing instructions based on the dispatch contents. If no further instructions, return by the standard route. Severus nods. Understood. Estimated return? For days if you return from Mediolanum. Longer if rerouted. For days, Severus repeats. He is calculating in his mind, travel times, rest stops, potential difficulties. A good courier runs these calculations constantly. You are cleared to depart at the 3rd hour, I say. The hour is nearly complete now. 15 minutes remain. I will prepare. Severus turns to leave, then pauses. The courier from Ticinum. Still no word. I glance at Decimus. He shakes his head slightly. No word, I confirm. He is 1 day late. Still within normal variation. Severus considers this. Couriers know each other, watch for each other. Gaius Licinius Rufus is known to Severus, they have shared this statio for 2 years. The roads from Ticinum have been difficult, Severus says. The spring rains have created mud patches near the river crossing. Noted, I say, though I will not record this speculation. Only confirmed information enters the log. Severus leaves. His footsteps fade down the corridor toward the stable area. Decimus and I relock the cabinet. Again, the simultaneous turning of keys. The mechanism engages with the same solid click. You will record the dispatch transfer? Decimus asks, though he knows I will. Immediately. He nods and leaves without further words. I return to my desk. The priority tablet must be updated with the dispatch transfer details. I take up the stylus. Diploma traditum, Titus Flavius Severus, hora tertia. Sigillum integrum confirmatum. Testus, Decimus Aurelius Priscus, Prefectus Vigilum. Equus, Fortis. Destinatio, Mediolanum, Instruction Sequence IB. The dispatch transferred to Titus Flavius Severus, 3rd hour. Seal confirmed intact. Witness, Decimus Aurelius Priscus, Watch Commander. Horse, Fortis. Destination, Mediolanum, further instructions there. The stylus completes the entry. I examine the text carefully. Each letter is clear. The information is complete. This entry will satisfy any auditor who reviews this tablet in the months to come. I set down the stylus and listen. Outside, I hear Lucius speaking to Severus, the sound of a horse being led from the stable. Fortis, ready for his journey. The 3rd hour approaches its end. The morning continues its steady progression. The stylus rests beside the tablet, waiting for the next entry. The sound of hooves on stone draws me to the window. Severus sits mounted on Fortis in the center of the courtyard. The black gelding stands perfectly still, his ears forward, alert. Lucius performs his final check, running his hand down each of the horse's legs one more time, examining the girth strap, testing the bit placement in Fortis's mouth. Severus wears his travel cloak now, dark grey wool, fastened at the right shoulder with a bronze fibula. The dispatch bag sits secured across his chest, positioned so it will not shift during riding. On his belt, a water flask, a small pouch that likely contains hard bread and dried fruit, and a knife, standard courier equipment, nothing more. Decimus emerges from the main building and approaches horse and rider. He speaks to Severus, but from this distance I cannot hear the words. Final instructions, perhaps, or simply the ritual farewell that Decimus gives to all departing couriers. May Mercury guide your path. Severus nods, gathers the reins. Lucius steps back. Fortis shifts his weight, ready. Then movement, Severus signals with his legs, and Fortis moves forward. Not fast. They walk through the courtyard gate at a measured pace. The sound of hooves fades as they turn onto the Via Mediolanum, the main road north. I remain at the window a moment longer. The courtyard is empty now except for young Marcus, who has finished sweeping and now carries his broom back to the storage room. The morning sun has risen high enough that shadow no longer covers half the courtyard. In another hour, the heat will begin to build, though this early spring day promises to remain cool. I return to my desk. The departure must be recorded in the daily log. Hora tertia, Titus Flavius Severus Prefectus. Equus, Fortis. Diploma Imperial Portans ad Mediolanum. Third hour, Titus Flavius Severus departed. Horse, Fortis. Carrying Imperial dispatch to Mediolanum. The entry is brief. The details are in the priority tablet. The daily log needs only the essential facts: who left, when, with what horse, carrying what type of dispatch. I set down the stylus and realize that my water cup is empty. The cup sits on the corner of my desk, terracotta, and glazed on the interior. It holds approximately half a sextarius of water, enough for the morning's work. I fill it twice daily, once before beginning work, once at midday. I take the cup and walk to the water supply room at the end of the corridor. This room is cool even in summer, positioned on the north side of the building where sun rarely reaches. A large clay amphora sits on a wooden stand, filled fresh each morning from the well in the outer courtyard. I remove the wooden cover from the amphora and dip my cup into the water. The surface ripples, catches the dim light from the single high window. The water is clear, cold. I fill the cup to 3/4 full, enough to last until midday, but not so full that it might spill on the walk back to my office. I drink a small amount immediately. The cold water is pleasant after the morning's work. My throat is slightly dry from breathing the dusty air of the office, a constant condition during the dry months. In winter, when braziers burn for warmth, the air becomes even drier. I replace the cover on the amphora and return to my office. The corridor is quiet. Most of the morning activity has concluded, horses exercised and stabled, the priority courier departed, the night watch relieved by the day watch. Now comes the quieter period of mid-morning, when routine administration takes precedence. At my desk, I set down the water cup and survey the morning's work. The daily tablet shows 4 entries: the date, the weather conditions, the overnight courier's arrival, and Severus's departure. The priority tablet shows the Imperial dispatch entry with full details. Both tablets are clear, legible, complete for this stage of the morning. But there is other work waiting. I open the drawer beneath my desk and remove a bound codex, a relatively new form of record keeping, replacing the older scroll method. This codex contains the weekly summaries that must be compiled every 7 days and submitted to the Provincial Administrative Office in Comum. Each page is papyrus, bound with leather thongs through holes punched in the left margin. The codex contains 50 pages, enough for 1 full year of weekly reports. I open to the current page. The week began 3 days ago, on the calends of April. I must review the daily entries from those 3 days and begin compiling the summary data: total dispatches sent, total dispatches received, courier names and routes, horse utilization, any irregularities or delays. This work requires a different kind of attention than the immediate recording of daily events. Summary work requires synthesis, pattern recognition, the ability to extract meaningful data from accumulated detail. I take up a different stylus for this work, one with a finer point, better suited to the smaller lettering required on papyrus. The papyrus surface does not accept stylus marks the way wax does. Instead, I use iron gall ink, applied with a split reed pen. The ink sits in a small ceramic inkwell on my desk, stoppered with a wooden plug to prevent evaporation. I remove the stopper. The ink is dark brown, almost black. It smells faintly acidic, the result of iron salts mixed with tannins from oak galls, bound with gum arabic. I prepare this ink myself every 2 months, following a recipe my instructor taught me. The proportions are precise, 3 parts oak gall decoction to 1 part iron sulfate solution, with a small amount of gum arabic to maintain proper consistency. I dip the reed pen into the ink, just the tip. Too much ink and it will blob on the papyrus. Too little and the letters will be too faint. The correct amount produces lines that are dark, clean, and permanent. Before writing on the codex, I test the ink on a scrap of papyrus I keep for this purpose. I draw a single horizontal line. The ink flows smoothly, darkens immediately as it contacts the papyrus fibers. Good. The ink is fresh enough. I begin the weekly summary notation. Hebdomada incipiens cal. April, dies primus. The week beginning on the calends of April, first day. I must consult the daily log from 3 days ago. I reach for the shelf where previous tablets are stored. Each day's tablet, once the day is complete and the information no longer needed for immediate reference, is stored in chronological order. Some tablets are scraped clean after storage and returned to circulation. Others, containing information of long-term importance, are preserved. The tablet from the calends is still on the shelf. It has not yet been scraped clean because the week's summary has not been completed. I place it beside the codex and read the entries. The calends was a quiet day. 2 routine dispatches sent, both to Comum. No imperial priorities. 1 courier arrived from Mediolanum in the afternoon. Horses, all in good condition. Weather, clear, mild. I translate this information into the summary format, writing carefully on the papyrus. Dies primus, diplomata missa, 2, comum. Diplomata accepta, nihil. Cursus aggressi, 2. Cursus adventus, I, Mediolanum. Equi, on sonni. Tempestas, clara. The reed pen moves more slowly than the stylus on wax. Papyrus requires patience. The fibers can catch the pen if pressure is uneven. A torn papyrus page in an official codex is unacceptable. Such a page must be carefully cut out and a new page stitched in its place, with a notation explaining the replacement. I complete the first day's entry and pause to let the ink dry. Wet ink can smudge easily, especially if my hand brushes across it. I count to 20 slowly, approximately the time needed for iron gall ink to set sufficiently. While I wait, I listen to the sounds of the statio around me. From the stable area, the occasional snort of a horse, the sound of hay being forked from storage to feeding racks. From the main building, distant voices, the day watch soldiers taking their mid-morning bread, perhaps, or discussing the night's events. The quiet periods are as much a part of this work as the active ones. A clerk learns to use quiet for reflection, for planning the day's remaining tasks, for the mental organization that prevents errors and oversights. The ink has dried. I touch it lightly with one finger to confirm, no smudge. I dip the pen again and continue. Dies secundus. The second day of the week. The work continues. The second day's entry requires consulting another stored tablet. I reach for the shelf again, select the correct tablet by the small notch I carve in the wooden frame, a personal system for quick identification. 2 notches, second day after the calends. I open the tablet and read the entries I made 2 days ago. My own hand, familiar as breath. The second day was busier. 3 dispatches sent, 2 to Comum, 1 to Bergomum. One imperial priority received in the morning, not the same priority that Severus carries now. That was a different matter, concluded within the day. For couriers in motion. One horse developed a loose shoe and required the farrier's immediate attention. These details must be condensed into the summary format without losing essential information. The art of summary is knowing what the provincial administrators need to see and what can be safely omitted. Dies secundus, diplomata missa, 3, comum, 2, burgomum, I, diplomata accepta, I, imperial, missum idem die. Cursus aggressi, 3. Cursus adventus, I, equi, unus, ferrum salutum, farium requisitum. Tempestas, clara, ventus. The pen moves steadily across the papyrus. The letters are smaller than those I form in wax, perhaps half the size. This is necessary to fit the required information on a single page. Each week's summary must occupy no more than 1 page. This is regulation, established to maintain consistency across all stations in the province. I pause to dip the pen again. The ink level in the well is still adequate, enough for several more hours of work. I observe the ink's consistency as I dip. It should cling to the reed tip briefly before settling back to its level. If it runs off immediately, it is too thin. If it clings in a thick drop, it is too thick. This ink is correct. The third day's entry will be the last I record at this time. Today's information will be added this evening, after the day's activities are complete. This creates a rhythm. Each morning, I update the weekly summary with the previous day's data. By the 7th day, the summary is complete and ready for final review before submission. I retrieve the tablet from yesterday, the 3rd day. 1 notch and 2 small scratches, my marking system. Yesterday was the day Gaius Licinius Rufus should have returned from Ticinum. He did not. This absence must be noted in the summary. I read through yesterday's entries carefully. 2 routine dispatches sent to Comum. No dispatches received. No couriers departed except for 1 reassignment to a neighboring statio where they were short-staffed. And the notation about Rufus, cursa ex Ticino expectatus, non adventus. Courier from Ticinum expected, did not arrive. This is not yet a formal concern, but it is an irregularity. Irregularities must be included in the weekly summary so that patterns can be observed across multiple stations. If several couriers are delayed on the same route during the same period, this suggests a problem with the route itself, bandits, road damage, weather conditions, that requires administrative attention. I write on the papyrus. Dies tertius, diplomata missa, 2, comum. Diplomata accepta, nihil. Cursus aggressi, nihil. Cursus adventus, nihil. Cursa ex Ticino expectatus, nondum adventus, retardatio, dies unus. Equi, om soni. Tempestas, clara. The delay notation is important. Dies unus, 1 day. If Rufus has not arrived by tomorrow, this will change to dies duo, and if it reaches dies tres, I must send a formal inquiry to the Ticinum statio requesting status confirmation. I set down the pen and examine what I have written. 3 days of summary entries, each following the same format, each providing the essential data in consistent order. An administrator reading this page can immediately understand the pattern of activity at this statio during this particular week. The ink is drying. I do not stop at the inkwell yet, there is more work that may require it before midday. I stand and stretch my back slightly. The chair I sit in is well made, sturdy oak with a woven rush seat, but any chair becomes uncomfortable after prolonged sitting. I walk to the window again. The courtyard is empty now except for 2 soldiers from the day watch crossing from the barracks to the main gate. They walk with the measured pace of men on routine duty, unhurried. One carries a spear, the other does not. They are likely conducting the mid-morning perimeter check, a standard security procedure performed twice each day. Behind me, I hear a soft sound. I turn. A sparrow has flown into my office through the open door and now perches on the back of my chair. It cocks its head, regarding me with one bright eye. Out, I say quietly, though not unkindly. The sparrow does not move. I walk slowly toward it, not directly but at an angle, making myself seem less threatening. The bird watches me approach. When I am 2 paces away, it launches itself from the chair and flies out the door in a flutter of brown wings. Birds are common here. The stable attracts them: grain, insects, water. I do not mind their presence, but I cannot have them in my office. A bird landing on wet ink could ruin an entire page of the codex. I return to my desk and check the papyrus. The ink has dried completely now. I run my finger lightly over the letters. They are slightly raised from the papyrus surface, a sign of properly mixed ink. Too much iron and the letters would sit flat and eventually fade. Too little and they would feather into the papyrus fibers, becoming difficult to read. I close the codex carefully and return it to the drawer. The weekly summary work is complete for now. This evening, I will add today's entries, and tomorrow morning I will add tonight's entries. By the 7th day, the full week's pattern will be visible. Now I must attend to another task, the inventory of writing supplies. This is conducted once per month, on the day after the nones. Today is the 9th day before the calends of April, which means the nones passed 7 days ago. I am therefore 1 day late with the supply inventory. This is not ideal, but neither is it a serious lapse. I will complete it now. I open the larger cabinet to the right of my desk, not the locked iron-bound cabinet where secure dispatches are kept, but a simple wooden cabinet containing the daily supplies of my work. Upper shelf, wax tablets. I count them carefully, removing each and stacking them on my desk. 17 tablets total. Of these, 4 are in daily use, 5 are in storage with information not yet transferred to permanent record, and 8 are available for immediate use. The regulation minimum is 6 available tablets. I am above minimum, which is acceptable. I make a mental note of the count. This will be recorded in the monthly supply log, a separate document from the daily log and the weekly summary, stored in the administrative archive rather than my office. Middle shelf, writing implements. 3 bronze styluses in current use, the one on my desk, 1 spare in good condition, 1 with a slightly bent tip that should be sent to the metalworker for repair. 5 reed pens of varying conditions, 2 excellent, 2 adequate, 1 that should be replaced soon. I examine each pen, checking for splits in the reed or blunting of the writing edge. Lower shelf, ink supplies and papyrus. 1 sealed jar of prepared iron gall ink, my current supply, perhaps 3/4 full. 1 sealed jar of oak gall decoction, ready for mixing new ink when needed. 1 small container of iron sulfate crystals. 1 small jar of gum arabic. These are the components. I mix them only as needed to ensure freshness. Papyrus, a bundle of 20 sheets, stored flat to prevent curling. I remove the top sheet and examine it against the window light. No mold, no insect damage. The storage cabinet is sufficiently dry. Good. Damaged papyrus must be discarded and replaced, and papyrus is expensive. It travels from Egyptus by ship and overland trade, one of the most costly supplies in my office. I count the sheets carefully, touching each one. 20 sheets confirmed. I return everything to the cabinet in proper order, tablets on the upper shelf, writing implements in the middle, ink supplies and papyrus on the lower shelf. Organization is essential. A clerk who cannot locate his own supplies quickly is wasting time that could be spent on actual record keeping. The supply inventory is complete. I will record the counts in the monthly log this evening when I complete the day's final entries. I sit down at my desk again. The morning approaches its midpoint. Outside, the sun continues its steady arc. Inside, the work continues. The stylus and the tablet, waiting. The sound of footsteps in the corridor draws my attention. Multiple footsteps, but not the heavy military boots of the watch. Lighter. Irregular rhythm. I recognize this pattern, the morning supply delivery from the main stores. 2 men enter my office without announcement. They are not soldiers but civilian workers employed by the statio for general labor. The older one, Publius, I have known for 6 years. The younger, whose name I have not learned, is new, perhaps 2 months in service. They carry between them a wooden crate. Scripter, Publius says by way of greeting. Publius, what have you brought? Lamp oil. 2 amphorae. Also rush wicks, 1 bundle. The quartermaster says to tell you the spring shipment arrived yesterday from Comum. They set the crate down near the door. I stand and approach to inspect the contents. 2 small amphorae, each sealed with cork and wax. I lift one. It weighs approximately 3 librae, suggesting it is indeed full of oil. The seal appears intact. I set it down and lift the second. Same weight, same intact seal. Good. The bundle of rush wicks sits beside the amphorae, perhaps 50 wicks bound with twine. I remove 1 wick and examine it. The rush has been properly dried and cut to uniform length, approximately 6 digits. Too short and the wick burns too quickly. Too long and it smokes excessively. Acceptable, I say. Place them on the shelf there. Publius and the younger man move the amphorae and wick bundle to the supply shelf along the back wall. This shelf holds items that are used regularly but not daily: lamp oil, replacement wicks, a spare inkwell, a bundle of papyrus scraps for testing ink consistency, a small whetstone for sharpening stylus points. The quartermaster requests your signature on the delivery record, Publius says, producing a small wax tablet from his belt pouch. I take the tablet and read the entry. The notation is brief, written in a less practiced hand than my own: oleum, amphorae 2. Elychnia, fasces ad officium scripta. Oil, 2 amphorae. Wicks, 1 bundle. To the office of the scripter. I take my stylus and add my mark at the bottom of the tablet, not my full name, but the abbreviated mark I use for routine administrative confirmations, a vertical line with 2 horizontal cross strokes, resembling the Greek letter psi. This mark is registered with the Statio administration as my official signature for supply receipts. Confirmed, I say, returning the tablet to Publius. He nods. The quartermaster also says the papyrus shipment is expected within 10 days. He will notify you when it arrives. Noted. Publius and the younger man leave. Their footsteps fade down the corridor, likely heading to the other offices with similar deliveries. The morning supply distribution is a routine that happens twice monthly: lamp oil and wicks, papyrus when available, replacement wax for tablets, occasionally bronze or iron items when the metalworker has completed repairs. I return to my desk and take up the daily log tablet. The supply delivery should be recorded. Hora quarter, accepta ex horio, oleum lampadis, amphorae 2, elychnia, fasces I. 4th hour, received from stores, lamp oil, 2 amphorae, wicks, 1 bundle. The entry is brief but sufficient. These routine deliveries do not require extensive documentation unless there is a discrepancy in quantity or quality. The quartermaster maintains his own detailed inventory. My notation serves primarily to mark the receipt date should any question arise later. I set down the stylus and drink from my water cup. The water is still cool, though less cold than when I first filled it. By midday it will be merely tepid. In summer, water left in a cup for half a day becomes unpleasantly warm, but this is early spring and the office remains cool. Outside, a horse whinnies. Not a distressed sound, merely communication, one horse calling to another. I recognize the voice as Sela, the grey mare. She is vocal, more so than the other horses. Lucius says this is simply her temperament. Some horses are quiet, some are not. I stand and walk to the window again. This is perhaps the 4th or 5th time I have stood this morning. A clerk's work is primarily sedentary, but I have learned that standing periodically prevents the stiffness that can develop in the lower back and legs. My instructor Quintus suffered greatly in his later years from such stiffness, the result of 40 years of continuous sitting. He told me, stand when you can. Walk when you can. The body was not designed for endless sitting. From the window, I can see into the stable courtyard. Lucius is there with one of the stable boys, examining a horse's hoof, not one of the courier horses, but one of the draft animals used for pulling supply wagons. The draft horses are not my responsibility to track, but I observe nonetheless. Observation is habit for a clerk. Lucius holds the horse's rear left hoof between his knees, bent over, using a hooked tool to clean the hoof. The horse stands patiently. Draft horses have a different temperament than courier horses, slower, calmer, more tolerant of handling. I return to my desk. The morning is more than half complete. The 4th hour will end soon, and the 5th hour will bring its own tasks. I open the drawer and remove a different document, the courier roster. This is a wooden board, smaller than the wall-mounted board, hinged in the center so it can be folded closed. Inside, written in charcoal that can be wiped and updated, are the names of all couriers assigned to this statio, their status, their qualifications, their histories. I open the board and review the information, though I know it nearly by memory. 6 couriers assigned here. Titus Flavius Severus, currently dispatched to Mediolanum with imperial priority. Age, approximately 30. Service, 7 years. Specialization, long-distance routes. Reliability, excellent. Current assignment, departed this morning, expected return in 4 days minimum. Marcus Valerus Proculus, arrived last night from Mediolanum. Age, approximately 25. Service, 4 years. Specialization, night routes. Reliability, good. Current status, rest period, minimum 3 days. Gaius Licinius Rufus, overdue from Ticinum. Age, approximately 35. Service, 9 years. Specialization, mountain routes. Reliability, excellent. Current status, delayed 1 day, cause unknown. Lucius Cornelius Denter, currently in rest rotation. Age, approximately 40. Service, 12 years. Specialization, heavy cargo escort. Reliability, adequate. Current status, available for dispatch tomorrow. Sextus Pompeius Valens, currently dispatched to Comum with routine correspondence. Age, approximately 28. Service, 5 years. Specialization, short routes, multiple stops. Reliability, good. Expected return, today, approximately 8th hour. Quintus Fabius Crispus, currently in rest rotation. Age, approximately 23. Service, 2 years. Specialization, training on various routes. Reliability, developing. Current status, available for dispatch tomorrow. I review each entry, checking for accuracy. The charcoal marks are clear. No updates are needed at this moment, but when Rufus arrives, if he arrives today, I will need to update his status immediately. When Severus returns, the same. When Valens returns this afternoon, the same. The roster is a living document, changing daily. Unlike the permanent logs that are stored and archived, this roster exists only in the present moment, constantly updated to reflect current reality. I close the roster board and return it to the drawer. The 5th hour approaches. From outside, I hear the changing of the gate watch, voices calling confirmation, the sound of spears being struck against shields in ritual salute, footsteps as one pair of guards relieves another. This happens every 4 hours, a military precision that has nothing to do with my work but provides a temporal structure to the day nonetheless. The morning is passing in its ordained pattern. Each task completed leads to the next task. Each hour brings its expected activities. This is the nature of the work, not excitement, not drama, but the steady accumulation of recorded information, day after day, year after year. I take up the stylus again and examine its point. Still sharp enough for the afternoon's work. The bronze is wearing slowly, as bronze does, but the point will last another month at least before requiring resharpening. I place the stylus precisely parallel to the edge of the tablet. This is habit, tools arranged in order, everything in its place. A cluttered desk suggests a cluttered mind, and a cluttered mind produces errors in record keeping. The water cup sits in its usual corner. The inkwell, stoppered, sits beside it. The daily log tablet lies open, ready for the next entry. The priority tablet rests on the shelf above, accessible but secure. The 5th hour begins. The work continues. The 5th hour brings a shift in the morning's rhythm. The early tasks, the scraping of tablets, the recording of overnight arrivals, the departure of priority couriers, are complete. Now comes the administrative work that requires deeper attention: correspondence review, route analysis, and the preparation of documents for the afternoon dispatches. I open the lower left drawer of my desk and remove a leather document case, sealed with a simple tie rather than wax. This case contains incoming correspondence from the provincial administration in Comum, letters, instructions, policy updates, and occasional queries that require response. The case arrived 3 days ago with a routine courier. I have reviewed its contents once already, but proper procedure requires a second review before filing. First review identifies urgent matters requiring immediate action. Second review ensures nothing was overlooked and determines proper archival classification. I untie the leather cord and open the case. Inside are 4 documents, each rolled separately and tied with colored thread to indicate priority level. Red thread, immediate action required. Blue thread, information requiring acknowledgement. White thread, general information for filing. Black thread, internal administrative matters. 3 white thread documents and 1 blue. No red, which is fortunate. Red thread documents require responses within 1 day of receipt, and I am already 3 days past receipt. Blue thread allows 5 days for acknowledgement. I remove the blue thread document first and untie the thread carefully. The thread itself is reusable if treated with care. I coil it and set it aside in a small wooden box where I keep such items. The document unrolls to reveal text written on papyrus in a practiced administrative hand, not as refined as my own, but clear and legible. The sender is identified at the top: L. Cassius Longinus, Actuarius Provincialis, Lucius Cassius Longinus, Provincial Accountant. I read the document slowly, giving each line full attention. The content concerns the quarterly financial audit scheduled for next month. All stations in the northern region must prepare detailed accounts of expenditures for the previous 3 months, courier wages, horse maintenance costs, supply purchases, repair expenses, and any extraordinary disbursements. This is routine. The quarterly audit occurs 4 times per year without exception. What is less routine is the added instruction. This quarter's audit will include a special review of horse acquisition costs, as the provincial governor has noted irregularities at 2 stations in the eastern region. Irregularities in horse acquisition suggest either incompetence or corruption. Horses are expensive. A good courier horse costs between 300 and 500 denarii, depending on age, training, and bloodline. Opportunities for fraud exist, claiming a horse cost 500 denarii when it actually cost 300, pocketing the difference. Or purchasing an inferior horse at full price from a vendor who provides a kickback. Such matters do not concern this statio. Lucius handles all horse acquisitions, and I have worked with him for 7 years. He is scrupulously honest, sometimes to the point of refusing good opportunities if they seem even slightly irregular. The last horse acquired here was Aura, purchased 8 months ago for 400 denarii from a reputable breeder in Mediolanum. The transaction was documented thoroughly, witnessed by Decimus and myself, and the horse has proven excellent in service. Nevertheless, the audit will require me to prepare documentation proving this. I must locate the original purchase record, verify the payment voucher, confirm the horse's current condition and service record, and compile all this information in the format specified by the provincial accountant. I make a mental note, begin audit preparation tomorrow. The audit itself is not scheduled for another month, but proper preparation requires at least 3 weeks of work. Rushing produces errors, and errors during an audit create suspicion where none is warranted. I roll the document carefully and set it aside. A response is required, a simple acknowledgement that the instructions have been received and will be followed. I will compose this response later today, after the midday meal period. Now the 3 white thread documents. I remove the first and untie the thread. This document is shorter, a single page. The sender is the Provincial Road Maintenance Coordinator, a position I have never encountered in person but whose correspondence arrives regularly. The content is a status update on road conditions throughout the northern region. I scan the text quickly, looking for information relevant to this statio's routes. The Via Media Lanum, in good condition, recent repairs completed near the bridge crossing at the 7th milestone. This is useful information. Severus departed this morning on the Via Media Lanum. He will encounter good road conditions, which should facilitate a faster journey. The Via Comum, adequate condition, minor rutting near the 4th milestone due to recent spring rains. Not severe enough to impede travel, but couriers should be advised to watch for soft ground near drainage ditches. The Via Ticinum, condition unknown, awaiting inspection report from the Ticinum road station. The Via Ticinum notation causes me to pause. Condition unknown is unusual phrasing. Normally these reports state either good condition, adequate condition, or poor condition requiring repair. The phrase awaiting inspection report suggests the inspection is overdue. Could this relate to Rufus's delay? He travels the Via Ticinum route. If road conditions have deteriorated and the inspection has been delayed, this might explain why he has not yet returned. Or it might not. Road condition reports and courier delays do not always correlate. A delayed courier could be due to many factors: a lame horse, personal illness, a delayed departure from Ticinum due to administrative issues there, or simply an error in my expected arrival calculation. Still, the correlation is worth noting. I set aside this document with a mental mark to cross-reference it if Rufus's delay extends beyond today. The second white thread document is a policy update concerning the handling of perishable goods in postal custody. This statio rarely handles perishable goods. Such items are typically transported by private merchants rather than the imperial post, but the policy must be acknowledged and filed nonetheless. I read it quickly. The essential change: perishable goods must now be marked with a special notation indicating their time-sensitive nature, and such goods receive priority routing equivalent to standard military dispatches. This seems reasonable. A dispatch containing military orders and a dispatch containing fresh fish destined for a governor's table both deteriorate with time, though in different ways. The policy recognizes this practical reality. I set this document aside for filing. The third white thread document is the longest, 3 pages. I unroll it and immediately recognize the format: a roster update from the Central Courier Administration in Comum. Such updates arrive irregularly, perhaps 3 or 4 times per year. They list changes in courier assignments throughout the province, new couriers entering service, experienced couriers retiring or transferring to different stations, disciplinary actions taken against couriers for misconduct, and occasionally memorial notices for couriers killed in service. I read through the first page. Several new couriers assigned to stations in the southern region, names I do not recognize, serving places I have never visited. 2 couriers transferred from eastern stations to western ones, lateral moves that suggest neither promotion nor demotion but simply administrative rebalancing. On the second page, a retirement notice: Aulus Plautius Silvanus, courier at the Comum Central Statio, retiring after 23 years of service. His name is familiar, He has passed through this statio perhaps a dozen times over the years, always professional, always punctual. 23 years is a long career for a courier. The work is demanding, and many leave service after 10 or 12 years, their bodies worn from constant riding. The third page contains what I have been unconsciously dreading: memorial notices. 2 names. Gaius Fabius Ursus, Cursor Stationis Bergomum, in itinerar mortuus, AD 7 ID Mart. Latronibus interfectus. Gaius Fabius Ursus, courier of the Bergomum station, died in transit on the 7th day before the Ides of March. Killed by bandits. I did not know this man, but I know the route from Bergomum. It passes through forested areas in the higher elevations, territory where bandits occasionally operate, despite regular military patrols. The second memorial notice is briefer. Marcus Antonius Lepidus, Cursor Stationis Verona, Morbo Mortuus, AD 11 Cal. April. Marcus Antonius Lepidus, courier of the Verona station, died of illness on the 11th day before the calends of April. 4 days ago. This man I did know, slightly. He delivered a dispatch here perhaps a year ago, stayed overnight at the Mancio, spoke little but seemed competent. Illness takes everyone eventually, but it seems young for a courier. He could not have been older than 35. I set down the document and sit quietly for a moment. This too is part of the work. Recording, filing, noting the passage of colleagues through service and out of it, whether through retirement, transfer, or death. The 5th hour continues. I roll the roster update document carefully and set it with the others. These memorial notices should be posted in the common area where the couriers take their meals, not as morbid reminder, but as acknowledgement. Couriers know the risks of their work, but knowing a name, seeing it written, allows for proper recognition. I will copy the memorial notices onto a small wooden board later today and give it to Decimus for posting. This is not required by regulation, but it is the right thing to do. I return all 4 documents to the leather case, but I do not tie it closed yet. The blue thread document requires a written response, and I should compose it while the content is fresh in my mind. I take a fresh sheet of papyrus from my supply shelf, not from the special bundle of 20, but from a smaller stack of secondary quality papyrus I keep for correspondence and drafts. This papyrus is slightly coarser, with more visible fiber texture, but perfectly adequate for administrative correspondence. I place the papyrus on my desk and smooth it flat with both hands. Papyrus that has been stored rolled will want to curl back. I place the inkwell on one corner and my water cup on the opposite corner to hold it flat. Now I must compose the response. Official correspondence follows a precise format, and deviation from this format marks the writer as either inexperienced or careless. I dip my reed pen in the ink and begin. The sender's name and title come first, positioned at the top left of the page. L. Cassius Longinus, Actuarius Provincialis. Then the recipient, myself, though I write in the third person as is customary. Gaius Publicius Scriptor, Librarius Stationis. I pause. I have not written the name of this statio yet because I am uncertain of the precise administrative designation. Is it Statio Vicesima Prima, based on its position along the Via Mediolanum? Or simply Statio ad Lacum, based on its proximity to the lake? The provincial correspondence uses both designations inconsistently. I set down the pen and stand. This is a question for Decimus. He will know the official designation used in current administrative records. I walk down the corridor to his office. His door stands open, as it usually does during daylight hours. Decimus sits at his desk, which is significantly larger than mine, reviewing a document with a furrowed expression. I stop at the doorway. Commander. He looks up. Scriptor. A question regarding official correspondence. What is the current administrative designation of this statio? I am responding to the provincial accountant and need the precise title. Decimus sets down the document. The current designation is Statio Vicesima Prima Via Mediolanum. This was confirmed in the winter census update. Vicesima prima. Confirmed. My thanks. I turn to leave, but Decimus speaks again. The correspondence from Comum. Did it contain anything requiring my immediate attention? The quarterly audit notice. Special focus on horse acquisition this quarter. I will prepare the necessary documentation. Decimus nods slowly. The Eastern region irregularities. I heard about those. 2 station masters under investigation, possibly facing prosecution. The notice did not specify details. It wouldn't, but word travels among the military stations. One of them allegedly purchased horses from his brother-in-law at inflated prices. The other claimed horses died in service that were actually sold privately. I say nothing. Such matters are for the provincial authorities to investigate and adjudicate, not for clerks and watch commanders to speculate about. Our records are in order, I say simply. I know they are. Your work is always in order. Decimus returns his attention to the document on his desk, then looks up again. The courier from Ticinum. Still no word. No word. The delay is now 1 full day. If he hasn't arrived by sunset, I'll send an inquiry rider at first light tomorrow. The road condition report from Comum notes the via Ticinum status is unknown, pending inspection. Decimus's expression shifts slightly, not quite concern, but heightened attention. Unknown status. That's unusual. I noted the correlation. Good. Continue monitoring. If Rufus arrives, notify me immediately regardless of the hour. Of course. I return to my office. The brief conversation has consumed perhaps 3 minutes, efficient, as all interactions with Decimus tend to be. We have worked together long enough that extensive explanation is rarely necessary. At my desk, I take up the pen again and complete the recipient designation. Gaius Publicius Scriptor, Librarius Stationis Vicesimi Primi via Media Lanum. Gaius Publicius Scriptor, Clerk of the 21st Station on the Via Media Lanum. Now the salutation. Salutum plurimam dicit. Sends abundant greetings. The standard formal opening, neither warm nor cold, simply correct. The body of the response must be brief and direct. Lengthy explanations are not required for a simple acknowledgement. Tois literas der inspection trimestri accipi. Omnia documenta de emptione quorum et sumptibus curatoris parabo secundum instructions tois. Documenta parata erant ante calendars proximus. I have received your letter concerning the quarterly inspection. I will prepare all documents regarding horse purchases and maintenance expenses according to your instructions. The documents will be ready before the next cal ends. The closing formula. Veil. Farewell. Short, standard, appropriate for administrative correspondence between officials of roughly equal rank. Finally, the date and my signature mark. AD 9 Cal. April. And below this, carefully, I draw my signature mark, the psi-like symbol that represents my official authentication of the document. This mark is more formal than the quick mark I use for supply receipts. I take care to make it cleanly, with proper proportion. The letter is complete. I set down the pen and examine the document. The letters are properly formed, evenly spaced, appropriately sized. The ink is dark and clear. The message is concise and addresses all necessary points. An administrative reader could scan this in 10 seconds and understand completely what action has been taken. I must let the ink dry before rolling the document for dispatch. I count slowly to 50. Iron gall ink on correspondence-grade papyrus requires slightly longer drying time than on higher quality material. While I wait, I organize the documents on my desk. The 3 white thread documents go into my filing basket for later archival storage. The blue thread document returns to the leather case, but marked with a small charcoal notation on the outside indicating response has been composed. The ink has dried. I touch it lightly to confirm. no smudge. Now I must roll the document for dispatch. I roll it carefully, text inward, beginning from the bottom edge. The roll should be tight enough to prevent unrolling during transport, but not so tight that it damages the papyrus fibers. When the document is fully rolled, I tie it with a length of undyed linen cord. 2 wraps around the circumference, then a simple knot. Not elaborate, this is administrative correspondence, not a gift. I stand and walk to the outgoing dispatch shelf near the door. This is a wooden rack with multiple compartments, each labeled by destination, Comum, Mediolanum, Bergomum, Ticinum, and one marked Varia for miscellaneous destinations. I place the rolled document in the Comum compartment. It will go out with this afternoon's routine dispatch. Sextus Pompeius Valens is expected to return from Comum at approximately the 8th hour, and he will carry outgoing correspondence back with him when he next departs, likely tomorrow morning. The correspondence work is complete for now. I return to my desk and drink from my water cup. The water is tepid now, as expected. Still drinkable, though not refreshing. The 5th hour continues toward its conclusion. Soon it will be time for the midday meal period, though my own meal will wait until after the afternoon courier activities are recorded. Outside, I hear the sound of a horse being led to water. Inside, the quiet persistence of routine. The stylus rests beside the tablet. The correspondence work complete, I turn my attention to a task I have been postponing since early morning, the inspection of the wax tablets themselves. Not their content, but their physical condition. Wax tablets are tools, and tools require maintenance. I gather the tablets from the shelf, the 8 that are currently available for immediate use, not including those in daily service or those storing information awaiting transfer. I arrange them in a row on my desk, like soldiers in formation awaiting inspection. The first tablet, the wooden frame, is walnut, well-oiled, approximately 3 years old based on the wear pattern. I run my finger along the edges of the frame. Smooth, no splinters, no cracks. The leather hinge connecting the 2 leaves of the tablet is supple, not dried or cracking. Good. A dried hinge will eventually break, and a broken hinge renders a tablet unusable until a leather worker can repair it. I open the tablet and examine the wax surface. The wax is dark, the mixture of beeswax, resin, and lamp black that creates the standard writing surface. I press my thumb gently into the wax. It yields slightly, then returns to shape. This indicates proper consistency. Wax that is too hard will crack in cold weather. Wax that is too soft will smudge and lose impressions. The second tablet, also walnut frame, but older, perhaps 5 years in service. The frame shows more wear, particularly at the corners where hands grip it repeatedly. One corner has a small chip, not deep enough to compromise the frame's integrity but noticeable. I make a mental note. This tablet should be relegated to less important uses, daily scratch work, temporary calculations, practice writing for any apprentice clerks who might be assigned here in the future. The wax in this tablet is slightly uneven. I can see where years of writing and scraping have created subtle low points and high points across the surface. This is inevitable. Even the most careful scraping cannot prevent some gradual redistribution of wax. Eventually, after perhaps 10 years of use, the unevenness becomes too pronounced and the tablet must be rewaxed. The old wax scraped out completely, the wooden bed retreated, fresh wax poured and smoothed. The hinge on this tablet is beginning to show age. The leather has lost some flexibility. I note this. Within 6 months, this hinge will likely need replacement. Third tablet, pine frame, not walnut. Pine is less expensive but also less durable. This tablet is newer, perhaps 1 year old, but already shows signs of wear that a walnut tablet would not show for 3 years. The corners are slightly rounded from handling, and there is a small crack beginning to form near one of the wax bed edges. I examine the crack more closely, turning the tablet to catch the light from the window. The crack extends perhaps 1 digit's length into the frame. Not immediately concerning, but it will grow. Pine splits more readily than walnut, especially when exposed to variations in temperature and humidity. This tablet should be used only for non-critical purposes and should be watched. If the crack extends beyond 2 digits length, the tablet should be retired from service before the frame splits completely during use. The wax in this tablet is good, still relatively fresh, properly mixed, maintaining its impressions well. When the frame eventually fails, the wax can potentially be salvaged and repoured into a replacement frame. Fourth tablet, walnut, excellent condition, perhaps 2 years old. No defects noted. The wax surface is nearly perfect, even, smooth, properly colored. This is the quality that should be standard for all tablets, though in practice such perfection is rare. Fifth tablet, walnut, 4 years old, good condition overall. The hinge shows slight wear but remains functional. One corner of the frame has a dark stain, likely wine or oil from someone's hands while handling it. The stain does not affect function, merely appearance. I make no note of this. Sixth tablet, walnut, age uncertain, perhaps 7 or 8 years. This is one of the older tablets in current circulation. The frame is worn smooth by countless handlings, which actually makes it more pleasant to hold. The wax has definite unevenness now, with a slight depression in the center where the most writing typically occurs. I open and close this tablet several times, testing the hinge. It still functions, but the movement is less smooth than it should be. The leather has stiffened with age. This tablet remains serviceable for another year, perhaps 2, but it approaches the end of its useful life. Seventh tablet, walnut, excellent quality, perhaps 2 years old. No significant wear. The bronze rivets securing the hinge to the frame are tight and show no looseness. The wax is pristine. This tablet could serve for another 5 years without difficulty. Eighth and final tablet, beechwood, not walnut or pine. Beech is uncommon for tablets, harder than pine but more prone to warping than walnut. This tablet is perhaps 3 years old and shows no warping yet, but I watch it carefully during seasonal transitions when humidity changes dramatically. The wax in this tablet has an unusual property. It is slightly lighter in color than standard wax. This suggests a different mixture ratio, perhaps less lamp black, or a different type of resin. The wax functions adequately, though I prefer the standard dark mixture for its superior visibility of stylus marks. I have completed the inspection. Of 8 tablets, 5 in excellent condition, 2 showing minor age-related wear but still serviceable, 1 with a developing crack requiring monitoring. This information does not require formal recording in any log, but I maintain awareness of it. A clerk who does not know the condition of his tools will eventually face a tool failure at an inopportune moment, a cracked frame splitting during important writing, a dried hinge breaking and losing a day's recorded information. I return the tablets to their shelf, arranging them by condition. The 5 excellent ones in the front, most accessible, the 2 worn ones behind them, the cracked pine one at the back, marked with a small charcoal X on the frame's edge to remind me of its status. Organization prevents errors. This is a principle I learned early and have never found reason to question. I sit down at my desk again and realize that my back aches slightly, a dull awareness in the lower spine. This is normal at this point in the morning. I have been working since shortly after dawn, and the body registers this effort even when the mind remains focused. I stand again and walk to the window. Not to observe anything in particular, but simply to move, to stretch, to allow blood to flow more freely. From the window, I see Lucius emerging from the stable with the farrier, a thick-bodied man named Sextus whose hands are perpetually stained dark from working with hot iron. They walk toward the paddock where the brown horse from last night's arrival is kept. The horse that showed slight lameness in the left rear hoof. I watch as they approach the horse. Lucius speaks to the animal. I cannot hear the words, but I see his mouth moving, his hand extended toward the horse's neck. The horse allows him to approach. Trust has been established. Sextus moves to the horse's rear and, with practiced ease, runs his hand down the left rear leg. The horse lifts the hoof without resistance, a trained response. Sextus holds the hoof, examining it, his head bent close. He speaks to Lucius. Lucius nods. They will take the horse to the farrier's workshop, where Sextus maintains his forge, his anvil, his collection of iron and tools. There he will examine the hoof more thoroughly, possibly remove and reshape the shoe, check for any stone bruising or abscess formation that might explain the lameness. This is not my concern directly, but I watch nonetheless. Everything that happens in this statio connects eventually to the work I do. A lame horse affects courier scheduling. Courier scheduling affects dispatch timing. Dispatch timing affects my record keeping. I turn from the window and return to my desk. The morning's work has been substantial, tablets scraped and prepared, overnight arrivals recorded, priority dispatch logged and witnessed, departing courier documented, supply inventory conducted, correspondence reviewed and response composed, tablet inspection completed. Yet the day is far from finished. The afternoon will bring its own requirements. Sextus Pompeius Valens should return from Comum at the 8th hour, requiring documentation. The evening will bring the final courier check, the daily log summary, the preparation for tomorrow's work. And still no word from Gaius Licinius Rufus. I look at the daily log tablet, at the entries I have made this morning. Each entry is a small piece of a larger pattern, a single thread in a fabric that extends across days, months, years. Tomorrow I will scrape this tablet clean and begin again, but the information will persist, transferred to permanent records, filed in archives, accessible to auditors and administrators who may review it months or years from now. This is the purpose, not merely to record the present moment, but to create a bridge between present and future, to ensure that what happens today can be understood by someone tomorrow, or next month, or next year. The stylus lies on the desk, waiting. The wax surface holds its impressions. The work continues. The sound of voices in the corridor signals the approach of the midday meal period. Not loud voices, but the particular murmur of men discussing the morning's work as they transition to rest. The day watch soldiers will take their meal in shifts, half now, half in an hour, so that the statio remains fully staffed at all times. I do not eat during the first shift. My practice is to wait until the afternoon, after the 8th hour activities are recorded. This allows me to work through the quieter middle portion of the day without interruption. Some might consider this excessive dedication, but I find that eating makes me sluggish, and sluggishness leads to errors in the afternoon's work. Instead, I drink water. I pick up my cup and find it empty. I have consumed more than I realized during the morning's work. I stand to refill it, but before I leave my office, I hear footsteps approaching. Heavy boots. Decimus. He appears in my doorway, his expression neutral but purposeful. Scripter. A moment. Of course. He enters and closes the door behind him, unusual. Decimus rarely closes doors. A closed door suggests private conversation, and private conversations suggest matters of some delicacy. I have received word from the gate watch, he says without preamble. A rider approaches from the east. Not one of ours. The watch identifies the horse as a military mount, auxiliary cavalry, not courier stock. I wait. There is more coming. The rider carries what appears to be official dispatch bags. Plural. This suggests either multiple dispatches or a courier carrying accumulated mail from several sources. From the east, I repeat. That would be the via Ticinum direction. Yes. We both understand what this might mean. A military rider coming from the direction of Ticinum, carrying multiple dispatches, arriving unexpectedly. How long until arrival? I ask. The watch estimates 10 minutes. Perhaps 15 if the rider stops at the outer checkpoint for identification confirmation. I will prepare to receive and log whatever dispatches he carries. Decimus nods. I will meet him in the courtyard. If there is news concerning Rufus, I will bring it to you immediately." He leaves, the door remaining open behind him. I sit down and take up the daily log tablet. This unexpected arrival must be noted, even before it occurs. The notation establishes the timeline, when we first received notice of the rider's approach, when he actually arrived, what he carried, what information he provided. Hora quinta, nuntiatus equitatis militaris ab orient adveniens. Saculi diplomatici plus. Cursor ignitus. 5th hour, military rider announced approaching from the east. Multiple dispatch bags. Unknown courier. The entry is sparse but captures the essential facts. More detail will be added once the rider arrives and his purpose becomes clear. I set down the stylus and stand. I should refill my water cup, but I find myself reluctant to leave my office now. The approaching rider has created a tension in the air, not dramatic tension, but the slight heightening of attention that comes when routine is interrupted by the unexpected. Instead of going to the water supply room, I walk to the window and look out toward the eastern gate. From this angle, I cannot see the gate itself. It is positioned around the corner of the main building, but I can see the section of road that approaches it. The road is empty. Dust hangs in the air from recent traffic, but no rider is visible yet. I wait at the window. This is inefficient. I should return to productive work rather than standing idle, but I find myself unable to turn away. The mystery of Rufus's delay has been a background concern all morning, and this approaching rider might bring resolution. Or might not. The rider could be carrying routine military dispatches that have nothing to do with the civilian courier system. Auxiliary cavalry units communicate frequently with provincial headquarters, sending status reports, supply requisitions, personnel updates. Such dispatches sometimes travel through the cursus publicus network when military messengers happen to pass near a postal station. Still, the coincidence troubles me. An unexpected military rider from the east, on the same day that a courier from the east is overdue. Movement on the road catches my eye. A horse and rider, still perhaps 400 paces distant but closing at a steady canter. The horse is indeed military stock. I can tell even at this distance by the way it moves, the slightly heavier build compared to courier horses. Military mounts are bred for endurance and strength rather than pure speed. The rider wears military dress. I can see the distinctive profile of a cavalry helmet, the rectangular outline of a military saddle pack. I watch as the rider approaches the outer checkpoint. 2 soldiers from the gate watch step out to intercept. Standard procedure, all arrivals must identify themselves and state their purpose before entering the statio proper. The rider slows to a walk. Words are exchanged, though I cannot hear them at this distance. One of the gate soldiers gestures toward the main courtyard. The rider nods and continues forward, now at a walk. I leave the window and move to my desk. The rider will be in the courtyard within moments, and I should be at my workstation, prepared to receive and document whatever he brings. I hear the horse enter the courtyard, hooves on stone, the distinctive sound of metal-shod hooves on limestone paving. Then voices, Decimus greeting the rider's response. I wait at my desk, stylus in hand, tablet ready. Footsteps approach my office. 2 sets, Decimus's heavy military tread and another set, slightly lighter, with the particular rhythm of a man who has been riding for hours and whose legs are adjusting to walking again. They appear in my doorway. Decimus enters first, followed by the rider. The rider is young, perhaps 25 years of age. He wears the uniform of an auxiliary cavalryman, mail shirt over a red tunic, leather teruges protecting his thighs, a cavalry helmet tucked under his left arm. His face is dust-covered, his eyes tired but alert. Across his chest, he carries 2 leather dispatch bags. Scriptor, Decimus says, this is Decurion Lucius Marcius Crispus of the 2nd Auxiliary Cavalry, stationed at Ticinum. I stand. Decurion. The young officer nods to me. Scripter. I carry dispatches for this statio and for onward transmission to Comum and Mediolanum. He removes the first dispatch bag from his shoulder and sets it on my desk. This bag contains official correspondence from the Ticinum station master and the Ticinum military commander. Official correspondence, I repeat, making note of the phrase. Official correspondence is distinct from routine administrative mail. It suggests matters requiring formal acknowledgement and response. Yes. Including, the Decurion pauses, glances at Decimus, then continues, information concerning your missing courier. The tension that has been building all morning crystallizes into focus. Gaius Licinius Rufus, I say. He is not missing. He is delayed. He is detained, the Decurion corrects gently. At Ticinum. Under medical care. I sit down slowly. Decimus remains standing, his posture stiff. What happened? Decimus asks. The courier arrived at Ticinum 3 days ago as scheduled. He delivered his dispatches without incident. He was scheduled to depart the following morning for the return journey. But during the night, he developed a severe fever. By morning, he could not ride. The medical officer examined him and ordered him confined to the infirmary. His condition? I ask. Stable when I departed Ticinum this morning. The fever had broken, but he remains weak. The medical officer estimates he will require at least 5 more days of rest before he is fit to travel. 5 more days. Plus the 2 days return journey. Rufus will not return for 7 days minimum, possibly longer. His horse? I ask, thinking of logistics. Stable, fed, in good condition. Being cared for by the Ticinum stable master. I take up my stylus. This information must be recorded immediately, while the details are precise in the Decurion's memory. The documents from Ticinum will provide written confirmation. I ask. Yes. A formal report from the station master and a medical assessment from the infirmary physician. I nod and begin writing. The mystery resolved. Not tragedy, but simple illness. The kind of ordinary disruption that affects even the most reliable systems. The work continues. I write quickly but carefully, recording the Decurion's information while he stands before my desk. Hora Quinta, Decurio L. Marcius Crispus, Equitatus Auxiliarius Secundus Ticinum, Advenit. Nunciat, G. Licinius Rufus Invalitudinario Ticini Morbo Detentus. Febris. Non potest ita facer. Medicus estimat dies quinque requie necessarios. 5th hour, Decurion Lucius Marcius Crispus, 2nd Auxiliary Cavalry from Ticinum, arrived. Reports, Gaius Licinius Rufus detained in Ticinum Infirmary due to illness. Fever. Cannot travel. Physician estimates 5 days rest necessary. The stylus moves with practiced speed. The Decurion watches me write with the quiet patience of a soldier accustomed to administrative procedures. Decimus remains standing near the door, his arms crossed. The dispatch is in your bag, I say to the Decurion without looking up from my writing. How many documents total? 3 sealed dispatches requiring onward transmission. 1 to Comum, 2 to Mediolanum. For documents for this statio's records, the station master's formal report, the medical assessment, a revised courier schedule from Ticinum, and a requisition for replacement courier coverage on the Ticinum-Mediolanum route. 7 documents total. This is substantial. I will need to process each one individually, verify seals, log receipt, determine routing for the onward dispatches, file the local documents appropriately. The seals on the onward dispatches, all intact? I ask. All intact. I verified them before departure and have not opened the bags during transit. Transit time from Ticinum? Departed at dawn. Rode directly without rest stops. Approximately 4 hours. 4 hours from Ticinum. That is good time, the Decurion rides well, and his horse is strong. Rufus typically makes the journey in 5 hours, but Rufus carries heavier dispatch loads and stops at the way station for the mandatory courier rest period. I complete the log entry and set down the stylus. I must receive and verify the documents now. This will require perhaps 20 minutes. Will you take refreshment while you wait? The decurion nods. Gratefully. Water and bread, if available. Decimus speaks, I will see to it. Come with me, decurion. Your horse also needs water and feed. My thanks, Commander. They leave together. Their footsteps fade down the corridor. I am alone with the dispatch bag on my desk. I do not open it immediately. First, I must prepare the proper documentation framework. When receiving multiple official dispatches, each must be logged individually with receipt time, sender, addressee, seal condition, and handling instructions. This requires a clean section of a wax tablet, properly organized. I take up a fresh tablet from the shelf, one of the 5 in excellent condition. I open it and examine the wax surface. Clean, smooth, ready for new entries. At the top of the tablet, I inscribe the heading. Acceptor ex Ticino, AD 9 Cal. April, Hora Quinta. Received from Ticinum, 9th day before the calends of April, 5th hour. Below this, I create 7 horizontal divisions by lightly scoring lines across the wax with the stylus. Each division will contain information about one document. This organizational structure allows me to process the documents systematically without confusion. Now I am ready. I open the dispatch bag. The bag's interior is divided into compartments, a well-made courier bag, military issue, superior to the civilian bags used by most postal couriers. The leather is thick, treated for water resistance, and the stitching is reinforced at stress points. I remove the first document, a sealed wooden tube, similar to the Imperial dispatch that Severus carried this morning but smaller in diameter. The seal is red wax bearing an official impression. I examine it closely. The image is a horse above 3 wavy lines, the symbol of the Ticinum stationmaster. The seal is intact, showing no cracks or signs of tampering. I turn the tube over. Marked on the wooden surface in charcoal, ad stationum comum, prioritas ordinaria. To the comum station, routine priority. I set this tube aside and make the first entry in my prepared tablet. 1. Tubulus signatus, sigillo integro, Ticinum stationmaster. Destinatio, comum. Prioritas, ordinaria. Sealed tube, seal intact, Ticinum stationmaster. Destination, comum. Priority, routine. The second document, another sealed tube, slightly larger. The seal bears a different impression, an eagle with spread wings, the symbol of military authority. The seal is intact. The wooden surface is marked, ad praefectum mediolanum, prioritas militaris. To the prefect at mediolanum, military priority. Military priority ranks above routine priority but below imperial priority. A military priority dispatch should be sent within 1 day of receipt, whereas routine priority allows up to 3 days. I make the second entry. 2. Tubulus signatus, sigillo integro, auctoritas militaris. Destinatio, mediolanum praefectus. Prioritas, militaris. The third document for onward transmission, a flat leather document case, sealed at the edges with wax. The seal impression shows 2 letters, ST. These are the initials of the Ticinum stationmaster, Sextus Tacitus, if I recall correctly from previous correspondence. The case is marked, ad officinam civilum mediolanum, residential administrativa. To the civilian office at mediolanum, administrative matter. This is routine correspondence, likely concerning budget allocations, supply requests, or personnel scheduling. Not urgent, but requiring formal transmission through official channels. I make the third entry and set the case with the 2 tubes. These 3 items must be prepared for onward dispatch. The military priority document should ideally go out today, but with Severus already departed and Valens not yet returned, it may need to wait until tomorrow morning. I will consult with Decimus about scheduling. Now the 4 documents intended for this Statio's records. I remove them from the bag one by one. First, a sealed papyrus scroll tied with blue thread. Blue thread indicates acknowledgement required, the same color coding system used throughout the provincial administration. The scroll is marked Relatio Formalis, G. Licinius Rufus. Formal report concerning Gaius Licinius Rufus. This will be the stationmaster's official documentation of Rufus's illness and detention. I set it aside carefully and make the entry. 4. Volumen Papyrus, Phylum Ceruleum. Relatio Formalis de G. Licinius Rufus detention. Second, another papyrus scroll, this one sealed with a medical symbol, a staff with a serpent coiled around it, the symbol of Asclepius. This is the medical assessment. Also tied with blue thread. 5. Volumen Papyrus, Phylum Ceruleum. Documentum Medicum de G. Licinius Rufus. Third, a wax tablet, closed and tied shut but not sealed with wax. This is marked Tabula Cassorum Revisa, Ticinum. Revised courier schedule from Ticinum. This will show how the Ticinum stationmaster has adjusted his courier rotations to compensate for Rufus's absence. Such information is shared between neighboring stations so that we can coordinate our own schedules accordingly. 6. Tabula Seria. Tabula Cassorum Ticinum Revisa. Fourth and final document, a papyrus sheet, unrolled and unbound, with writing visible on one surface. This is marked Requisitio Cursoris Substituti. Request for replacement courier. The Ticinum stationmaster is formally asking for temporary courier coverage on his routes while Rufus recovers. This is standard procedure when a courier is incapacitated for more than 3 days. Neighboring stations provide mutual support when possible. 7. Charter Papyrus. Requisitio Cursoris Substituti Pro via Ticinum Mediolanum. All 7 documents accounted for, logged, organized. The dispatch bag is empty. I fold it closed and set it aside. It will be returned to the decurion when he departs. Now comes the detailed work, opening and reading each of the 4 local documents, understanding their implications, determining what responses are required, what actions must be taken. But first, I should retrieve the decurion and inform him that the initial receipt verification is complete. The work continues, methodical and thorough. I stand and walk to the door of my office. The corridor is quiet, the first meal shift has begun, and most of the soldiers are in the refectory. I walk toward the main hall where Decimus likely took the decurion. As I approach, I hear voices, not loud, but the conversational tone of men discussing military matters. I pause at the entrance to the hall. Decimus and the decurion sit at one of the long wooden tables. Before the decurion sits a wooden plate with bread and cheese, and a clay cup of what appears to be watered wine. He eats with the efficient hunger of a man who has ridden 4 hours without pause. "Commander," I say from the doorway. Decimus looks up. "Scriptor. The initial verification is complete. All 7 documents accounted for, all seals intact. I am prepared to begin detailed processing." The decurion sets down his bread and wipes his hands on a cloth. "I must return to Ticinum before nightfall. Will you require my presence for the detailed processing, or may I depart once my horse is rested?" I consider this. The documents are self-explanatory if properly prepared. Do you have personal knowledge of Rufus's condition beyond what is written in the medical assessment? "I saw him briefly yesterday afternoon," the decurion says. "He was awake, speaking clearly, but visibly weak. The fever had broken the previous night, but he had lost significant body weight and complained of muscle pain. The physician characterized it as a severe inflammatory fever, possibly contracted from bad water or spoiled food. This is useful detail, though not information that requires formal recording. It provides context. And his spirits?" I ask. This is not strictly necessary information, but a courier's mental state affects recovery time. Frustrated, the decurion says with a slight smile. He apologized repeatedly for the delay, expressed concern about the disruption to schedules. The physician had to order him to stop attempting to rise from his bed. A dedicated courier. I nod. This assessment matches what I know of Rufus: conscientious, reliable, the type of man who takes delay as personal failure even when circumstances are beyond his control. Your testimony is noted, I say. I have no further questions. You may depart once your horse is adequately rested. My thanks, Scripter. The decurion returns to his meal. I turn to Decimus. The military priority dispatch to Mediolanum should be sent tomorrow morning at the latest. I will need a courier assigned. Decimus considers this. Lucius Cornelius Denter is available. He completed his rest rotation yesterday and is cleared for dispatch. Denter. Confirmed. I will prepare the routing instructions this afternoon. The replacement courier request from Ticinum, Decimus says. Can we accommodate it? This is a more complex question. Providing a replacement courier means temporarily reducing our own coverage. We have 6 couriers assigned here, but with Severus currently dispatched and Rufus detained at Ticinum, we are effectively operating with 4. If we send a 5th to cover Ticinum routes, we will be reduced to 3 active couriers, barely adequate for maintaining normal operations. It depends on the duration requested, I say. I have not yet read the requisition document. If Ticinum requests 5 days of coverage, we can likely accommodate. If they request 10 days or more, we may need to request augmentation from Comum. Decimus nods. Read the requisition and inform me. If we need to request augmentation, I will send word to Comum this afternoon. Understood. I return to my office. The 7 documents remain arranged on my desk in the order I logged them, the 3 for onward transmission on the left, the 4 for local processing on the right. I begin with the local documents, as these require my immediate attention and potential response. I pick up the first scroll, the formal report concerning Rufus, tied with blue thread. I untie the thread carefully, coiling it for reuse. The papyrus unrolls to reveal approximately 1 page of text, written in a clear administrative hand. The header identifies the sender, Sextus Tacitus, Praefectus Stationis Ticinum, Sextus Tacitus, Stationmaster at Ticinum. I read slowly, giving each line full attention. To the Stationmaster and administrative officers of the 21st Station, via Mediolanum. This is to inform you that the courier Gaius Licinius Rufus, who departed your station 3 days prior to this writing and arrived at Ticinum on schedule, has been detained here due to sudden illness. The courier developed severe fever during the night of the calends of April and was unable to depart on his scheduled return journey the following morning. I continue reading. The courier was examined by Marcus Fabius Mosellus, physician of the Ticinum garrison, who diagnosed inflammatory fever of unknown origin. The courier's temperature exceeded safe levels, and he was admitted to the garrison infirmary for treatment and observation. Treatment consisted of cooling baths, administration of willow bark decoction for fever reduction, and enforced rest with light diet. This is more detailed than I expected. Station Master Tacitus is being thorough, anticipating questions about the quality of care provided. As of this writing, the courier's fever has broken and his condition has stabilized. However, the physician advises that the courier remains significantly weakened and is not fit to undertake a 2-day journey on horseback. The physician estimates a minimum of 5 additional days of rest will be required before the courier can safely return to active duty. 5 days confirmed. This matches what the decurion reported. The courier's horse remains in our custody and is being properly maintained at station expense. All dispatches carried by the courier were delivered without incident. The courier's personal effects remain with him in the infirmary. The report concludes with the standard closing formula and Sextus Tacitus's signature mark, a stylized ST, that matches the seal on the document case I logged earlier. This is a well-written report, complete and professional. It provides all necessary information and anticipates reasonable questions. I make a mental note: Sextus Tacitus is a competent administrator. I set aside the report and pick up the medical assessment, the scroll sealed with the Asclepius symbol. I break the wax seal carefully, preserving the impression as much as possible. Medical documents sometimes require authentication verification, and an intact or carefully preserved seal serves this purpose. The papyrus unrolls. The writing is less elegant than the stationmaster's report, the characteristic hand of someone more comfortable with medical instruments than with pens. But it is legible. Medical assessment: patient Gaius Licinius Rufus, courier, age approximately 35 years. Presented with acute fever, rigors, headache, muscle pain, and mild disorientation on the morning of the second day before the nones of April. The language is technical, precise. I read carefully. Initial examination revealed temperature significantly elevated above normal, rapid pulse, flushed skin, and evidence of dehydration. Patient reported sudden onset of symptoms during the night, with no prior signs of illness. Diagnosis: inflammatory fever, likely infectious in origin. Possible sources include contaminated water or food, though patient cannot identify specific exposure. No evidence of injury, animal bite, or other trauma. The physician continues with treatment details. Patient received immediate treatment consisting of cold water immersion to reduce temperature, followed by willow bark infusion administered 3 times daily for fever control. Diet restricted to thin barley gruel and water. Patient confined to bed, rest under observation. Progress: fever broke on the evening of the 3rd day of treatment. Patient's temperature returned to normal range. However, patient exhibits significant weakness, muscle tremors, and fatigue. Body weight reduced by approximately 8 libbre since onset of illness. 8 libbre is substantial weight loss, nearly 1/4 of a modius of grain equivalent. This explains the physician's caution about allowing Rufus to travel. Recommendation: patient requires minimum 5 additional days of rest, adequate nutrition, and gradual return to activity. Patient should not ride horseback or engage in strenuous activity during this recovery period. Prognosis for full recovery is good, provided recommendations are followed. The document is signed, Marcus Fabius Mosellus, Medicus Legionis. I set down the medical assessment and make note of its contents in my mind. This information will need to be summarized in my response to Ticinum, confirming receipt and understanding. 2 documents reviewed. 2 remaining. The afternoon work deepens. I pick up the 3rd document, the wax tablet containing the revised courier schedule from Ticinum. I untie the cord and open it carefully. The tablet reveals a grid of information, organized in columns: courier names, assigned routes, departure times, rest periods. The schedule shows how Sextus Tacitus has redistributed Rufus's route assignments among his remaining couriers. I trace my finger down the columns, reading the adjustments. The Ticinum Mediolanum route, normally Rufus's primary responsibility, has been split between 2 other couriers, each handling alternating days. The secondary routes have been compressed, with longer intervals between dispatches. It is competent crisis management, though not without strain. The notation at the bottom of the tablet makes this clear: schedule sustainable for maximum 7 days. Augmentation requested. 7 days. If Rufus recovers within 5 days as the physician estimates, and requires 2 more days for the return journey, the timing will be adequate. But if recovery extends longer, Ticinum will face courier shortages that could disrupt the entire regional network. I set aside the schedule and pick up the final document, the requisition for replacement courier coverage. The requisition is written on a single sheet of papyrus in Sextus Tacitus's hand. The language is formal but direct. Request for temporary courier assignment, one qualified courier, experienced in mountain routes, to provide coverage on the Ticinum Mediolanum route for a period of 7 days, beginning tomorrow at dawn. Courier will be provided lodging, meals, and horse as needed. Requesting station, 21st station, via Mediolanum, or Comum Central Station if more convenient. 7 days. This confirms what the schedule indicated. Tacitus is requesting help from us first, with Comum as alternative if we cannot provide it. I consider our resources. With Severus dispatched, Rufus detained, and Valens expected back this afternoon, we have effectively 4 couriers available: Denta, Crispus, Proculus who arrived last night and needs 2 more days of rest, and Valens who will need rest after his return. We can send Denta tomorrow. This will reduce us to 3 operational couriers for 7 days, but 3 is manageable if no emergencies arise. If an imperial priority arrives during this period, we will face difficulties, but such priorities are rare, perhaps once per month. The decision is ultimately Decimus's to make, but I can prepare the recommendation with confidence. I set aside the requisition and stand. My back protests. I have been sitting for most of the past 2 hours. I walk to the window and look out at the courtyard. The decurion's horse stands tied near the water trough, its head lowered, resting. The animal has been fed and watered, allowed to cool from the morning's exertion. Soon the decurion will depart, carrying my formal acknowledgement back to Ticinum. But first I must write that acknowledgement. I return to my desk and remove a fresh sheet of papyrus from my supply. This will be a brief document, simply confirming receipt of all materials, summarizing our understanding of the situation, and stating our intended response to the requisition. I dip my reed pen in the ink and begin. Sextus Tacitus, Praefectus Stationis Ticinum, Gaius Publicius Scriptor, Librarius Stationis Vicessimi Primi via Mediolanum, salutum dicit. To Sextus Tacitus, Stationmaster at Ticinum, Gaius Publicius Scriptor, Clerk of the 21st Station on the Via Mediolanum, sends greetings. Omnia documenta tuar accepimus, relationem formulum de G. Licinius Rufus, documentum medicum, tabulum cassorum revisum, requisitionem cursoris substituti. Omnia sigilla integra errant. We have received all your documents, the formal report concerning Gaius Licinius Rufus, the medical document, the revised courier schedule, the requisition for replacement courier. All seals were intact. Interlegimus citum G. Licinius Rufus et commendamus curum quam ei prebuisti. Medici judicium approbamus et quinque dies requie necessarios confirmamus. We understand the situation of Gaius Licinius Rufus and commend the care you have provided him. We approve the physician's judgment and confirm the 5 days of necessary rest. De requisition cursoris substituti, mittimus unum cursorum nostrum, Lucium Cornelium Denta, qui cras prima lus proficicita ad Ticinum. Septem dies cooperationis priester paterimus. Concerning the requisition for replacement courier, we will send one of our couriers, Lucius Cornelius Denta, who will depart tomorrow at first light for Ticinum. We can provide 7 days of cooperation. I continue writing, my hand steady, the letters forming with practiced precision. Documenta tria ad transmissionem servamus et eras mittimus, unum ad comum, duo ad Mediolanum. Diploma prioritatis militaris cras mane proficissita. We are holding 3 documents for transmission and will send them tomorrow, 1 to Comum, 2 to Mediolanum. The military priority dispatch will depart tomorrow morning. Si G. Licinius Rufus Redeye potist post quinque dies, is it equus eus ben accipienter. Si plus temporis requirit, nobis statim nuntia. If Gaius Licinius Rufus can return after 5 days, he and his horse will be welcomed. If he requires more time, notify us immediately. Vale. Datum AD 9 Cal. April. Farewell. Given on the 9th day before the calends of April. Below this, I draw my formal signature mark carefully. This is an official document requiring authentication. The acknowledgement is complete. I set down the pen and wait for the ink to dry, counting slowly to 50. While the ink dries, I reflect on the morning's progression. It began with routine, the scraping of tablets, the recording of standard entries, the preparation of daily reports. Then came the unexpected, the Imperial Priority Dispatch, requiring immediate action. Then the mystery of Rufus's delay, creating low tension throughout the morning. And finally, resolution, not tragedy, not drama, but the ordinary challenge of illness and the systematic response of an administrative network designed to absorb such disruptions. This is the reality of the work. Not the excitement that civilians sometimes imagine when they think of the Imperial Post, swift riders carrying urgent messages across vast distances, but rather the steady, methodical maintenance of a system. The careful recording, the verification of seals, the coordination between stations, the mutual support when difficulties arise. The ink has dried. I roll the papyrus carefully and tie it with a length of undyed linen cord. I do not seal it. This is a routine acknowledgement, not a confidential communication. I stand and walk down the corridor toward the main hall. The decurion still sits at the table, though his meal is finished. His cup is empty. Decurion, I say from the doorway. The acknowledgement is prepared. You may carry it back to Ticinum. He stands and approaches me. I hand him the rolled papyrus. He takes it and tucks it into his belt pouch. My thanks for your efficiency, Scriptor. I will deliver this to Station Master Tacitus before sunset. Safe journey. The roads are reported in good condition. So I have heard. He nods to me, then to Decimus, who has appeared behind me in the corridor. Commander. Scriptor. Gratitude for your hospitality. He walks past us toward the courtyard. We follow at a distance, watching as he unties his horse, checks the saddle girth, mounts with practiced ease. The horse moves forward, alert now, rested and ready for the return journey. The sound of hooves fades as horse and rider pass through the gate and turn eastward onto the Via Ticinum. I turn to Decimus. Denta should be informed that he departs for Ticinum tomorrow at dawn. I will tell him this afternoon. The military priority dispatch to Mediolanum goes with him. Understood. We stand together in the courtyard for a moment. The sun is high now, approaching its zenith. The morning's work is complete. The afternoon's work awaits. I return to my office. The daily log tablet lies on my desk, its surface covered with the morning's entries. Tomorrow morning I will scrape it clean and begin again. But the information persists, transferred to permanent records, woven into the endless fabric of documentation that connects one day to the next, one station to another, present to future. I sit down at my desk. I pick up the stylus. The wax surface waits. The work continues, as it has always continued, as it will always continue. This has been a morning in the life of a Roman postal clerk. Not every morning brings illness reports and military couriers. Most mornings are quieter still, routine dispatches, standard correspondence, the endless small details of maintaining the cursus publicus. But whether the day brings drama or routine, the work remains the same: to record, to verify, to maintain the system that allows information to flow across the empire. We are not the riders who cover vast distances. We are not the generals who make great decisions. We are the clerks, the record keepers, the ones who ensure that each small piece of information finds its proper place. This too is service. This too matters. The tablet is ready. The stylus is sharp. The work continues.